Picture this. You're sitting in first class. The cabin smells like expensive leather and fresh coffee. Soft lighting, plush seats. Everything around you whispers luxury and comfort. Passengers are scrolling through their phones, sipping champagne, already dreaming about their destinations. The engines hum quietly, promising a smooth journey ahead. But in that moment, in that beautiful, expensive cabin, something ugly is about to happen. Something that will change lives forever. And it all starts with one simple question. Can I have a glass of water? That's it. Just water. Not champagne. Not a complicated cocktail. Just plain water. But sometimes, the simplest requests reveal the deepest truths about people. And on this flight, that truth was about to explode in the most dramatic way possible. Let me introduce you to someone. Her name doesn't matter as much as what she represented. For years, she ruled the skies. A senior flight attendant with auburn hair always pinned perfectly in place. A smile that looked warm from a distance, but felt cold up close. She walked through cabins like a queen surveying her kingdom. Every step deliberate. Every word calculated. Every passenger just another subject in her domain. And she was untouchable. At least, that's what she believed. You see, she had mastered the art of looking professional while being cruel. She knew exactly how to dismiss someone with a smile. How to humiliate someone while following the rules. How to make passengers feel small without ever raising her voice. It was a skill she'd perfected over years in the air, and she wore it like armor. Behind her, junior crew members walked on eggshells. They'd seen what happened to anyone who challenged her. The complaints that mysteriously disappeared. The supervisors who always took her side. The perfect performance reviews that protected her no matter what passengers said. She had built an empire of fear at 30,000 feet, and nobody could touch her. Or so she thought. She loved the power, loved the control, loved watching people realize that she decided when they ate, when they drank, when they got a blanket or a pillow. In her mind, she wasn't serving anyone. They were privileged to be served by her. That attitude, that arrogance, that absolute certainty in her own invincibility, it was all about to come crashing down. And it would happen faster than a plane losing altitude. Now, let me tell you about the woman in seat 3A. Dr. Martinez sat quietly, reviewing documents. Technical papers about aviation safety, regulations, compliance standards. She wore a perfectly tailored navy suit. Her posture was straight, but not rigid. Professional, but not cold. She had the kind of calm that comes from confidence, not arrogance. The kind of presence that doesn't need to announce itself. To everyone around her, she looked like any other business traveler. Maybe a lawyer. Maybe a consultant. Someone important, sure, but nothing extraordinary. Nobody knew what she really did. Nobody knew the authority she carried. And that's exactly how she preferred it. When you're a federal aviation inspector, you learn to observe quietly. You learn to see things others miss. You learn that the truth reveals itself when people think nobody important is watching. She'd been on hundreds of flights, seen thousands of interactions between crew and passengers. Most were professional. Some were exceptional. But occasionally, very occasionally, she witnessed something that reminded her why her job mattered. Why oversight existed. Why accountability couldn't be negotiable. This was about to become one of those flights. "Excuse me," Dr. Martinez said politely, looking up at the senior flight attendant. "Could I please have a glass of water?" Simple, respectful, clear. The flight attendant looked down at her. And in that look, there was something cold, Something dismissive. Something that said, "You're interrupting me. Full beverage service begins after takeoff," she replied, her voice sharp as broken glass. Without waiting for a response, she grabbed a plastic cup, filled it with orange juice, and pressed it into Dr. Martinez's hand. "I asked for water," Dr. Martinez said calmly. Not aggressive, not rude, just clear. Passengers nearby shifted uncomfortably. Something felt wrong. The air felt heavy. This wasn't normal customer service. This was something else. Something darker. The flight attendant's smile didn't reach her eyes. "This is what I'm serving now." And then it happened. Time seemed to slow down. The flight attendant's wrist tilted. Not accidentally. Not a bump or a slip. Deliberately. Intentionally. With purpose. The orange juice poured out in a cold, sticky stream. It splashed across Dr. Martinez's lap, soaking through her expensive suit. It drenched her documents, those important federal papers, turning them into soggy messes. It pooled around her briefcase. Droplets scattered across the armrest, the seat, even the floor. The entire cabin gasped. Some passengers covered their mouths in shock. Others looked away, embarrassed to witness such blatant disrespect. A few nervous laughs broke out, the kind that happen when people don't know how to process what they're seeing. "Oops," the flight attendant said, her voice dripping with fake concern. "How clumsy of me." She tossed 2 thin napkins onto the growing puddle. "Accidents happen, right? You can file a complaint when we land." She turned away, satisfied, triumphant. In her mind, she'd just put another uppity passenger in their place. She'd reminded everyone watching who controlled this cabin. She'd won. But she hadn't won anything. She'd just destroyed her entire life. She just didn't know it yet. Dr. Martinez sat there, juice dripping from her clothes. She picked up those inadequate napkins and dabbed at the stain. Her movements were calm, controlled, but if you looked closely at her eyes, you'd see something else. Something steel-hard and unshakable. She reached up and pressed the call button. The flight attendant returned, annoyance written all over her face. "What now?" "I need to speak to your captain," Dr. Martinez said. Her voice was quiet but firm. Not a request. A statement. The flight attendant rolled her eyes. "You can submit your complaint after we land. We're about to take off. Don't make a scene." That sentence, those words, that dismissive, arrogant tone, that was the moment. The point of no return. The instant when everything changed forever. Dr. Martinez reached into her document case. She pulled out a leather wallet, and she opened it. The badge inside caught the cabin lights and seemed to glow. Federal Aviation Administration. Inspector. Official credentials that carried the weight of the United States government. The gasps that followed were louder than before. "My name is Dr. Martinez," she said, her voice cutting through the shocked silence like a knife through silk. "I am a Federal Aviation Safety Inspector. You haven't just spilled a beverage. You have deliberately interfered with my ability to perform official duties. You have destroyed federal property. This is not a customer service issue. This is a federal matter." The color drained from the flight attendant's face like someone had pulled a plug. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Her hands started trembling. Around them, passengers leaned forward, phones forgotten, champagne ignored. Everyone understood they were witnessing something extraordinary. The captain appeared moments later. He was a seasoned pilot, thousands of hours in the air, seen everything. But one look at that badge, at the soaked inspector, at the cabin full of silent witnesses, and he knew this was serious. This was career-ending serious. "Captain," the flight attendant stammered, trying desperately to regain control. "She's exaggerating. It was an accident. She's trying to cause trouble over nothing." "Nothing?" Dr. Martinez's voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath. "Your crew member lied to me, dismissed my lawful request, deliberately destroyed federal documents, and is now attempting to intimidate her colleague into staying silent about what she witnessed." All eyes turned to a young flight attendant standing behind them. She was pale, shaking, terrified. She'd seen everything. She knew the truth. But speaking that truth meant going against the most powerful person in her world. The person who controlled her schedule, her reviews, her entire career. The silence stretched. Nobody breathed. And then, in a voice barely above a whisper, the young woman said the bravest words of her life. She poured it on purpose. "I saw everything." The cabin erupted. Passengers whispered urgently to each other. The senior flight attendant's face went from pale to red, shock and betrayal fighting for dominance. But there was no escape now. The truth was out. The witnesses were everywhere. The authority was absolute. Dr. Martinez turned back to the captain. "Under my authority as an FAA inspector, I am officially grounding this aircraft pending immediate safety inspection." Those words hit like thunder. Grounded. A multi-million-dollar aircraft. Hundreds of passengers. An entire flight schedule. All stopped. All because one person thought she was above consequences. All because arrogance had been allowed to flourish unchecked for too long. The plane slowly turned around, taxiing back to the gate. The once powerful flight attendant stood frozen, watching her kingdom collapse. When the door opened, FAA supervisors and airline executives were waiting. Their faces said everything. This was serious. This was catastrophic. This was the beginning of the end. The investigation that followed was brutal and thorough. Years of complaints suddenly mattered. Years of bullying came to light. Years of junior staff being too afraid to speak up were finally heard. Supervisors who had protected her, who had buried complaints, who had valued loyalty over integrity, they were all exposed. The rot went deep, and Dr. Martinez's report pulled it all into the light. The senior flight attendant was fired immediately, stripped of her credentials, blacklisted across the industry. Everything she'd built, every bit of power she'd hoarded, every connection she'd cultivated, gone in an instant. But the story doesn't end with her fall, because something beautiful happened too. That young flight attendant, the one who found the courage to tell the truth when it mattered most, she was promoted, praised publicly for her integrity. Given leadership training, she became the example of what professionalism should look like. Proof that courage is rewarded. Proof that doing the right thing matters. The airline reformed everything. Rewrote policies. Retrained thousands of staff. Opened anonymous reporting channels. Created a culture where speaking up was protected, not punished. Dr. Martinez's report didn't just ground one flight. It transformed an entire company. Months later, Dr. Martinez boarded another flight. A crew member approached with a warm smile and offered her a glass of water without hesitation. It was a small gesture, simple, but it meant everything. It meant change had taken root. It meant the system was better. It meant that one terrible moment had led to countless better ones. And the disgraced flight attendant? She fell hard. From commanding premium cabins to serving coffee at an airport kiosk. Watching planes take off every day. Going to places she'd never reach again. Her career destroyed by one moment of arrogance. One deliberate act of cruelty. One failure to understand that power without respect is nothing. So here's what I want you to think about. One spilled drink changed everything. One act of spite destroyed a life. One act of courage saved countless others. One moment of truth reshaped an entire culture. We all have power in different ways. Maybe you're a manager. Maybe you're a teacher. Maybe you're a parent. Maybe you just have authority over someone in a single moment. What you do with that power defines who you are. The question isn't whether you have power. The question is, what kind of person are you when you think nobody important is watching? Because here's the truth that flight attendant learned too late. Someone is always watching. Maybe it's a colleague. Maybe it's a passenger. Maybe it's a federal inspector in seat 3A. And one day, eventually, always, accountability comes. The only question is, which side of that moment will you be on?